Hello and welcome, everyone, back to Let's Write Adventure, our ongoing live stream where we craft an adventure in real time, start to finish, with you guys seeing all my thought processes and full, failures and stumbles and successes and all that. So I'm RJ Kerr, and if you're new to our channel, if this is the first time you're joining us, we're continuing an adventure that we had begun writing in part one of this series, where the characters of a party of four third level characters are hired by the community leader of a town we now know as Sky Song Gulch to recover the only known deposit of our MacGuffin, cold iron, which is lost in a glacial mine we're calling the Berg, once ravaged by a terrible disease. The community needs it to save themselves from the foretold coming of the Bloodgood Sisters, coven of hags, and the characters have been led to believe that the village plans to fight these powerful fae with this cold iron. But when they return, they discover that in fact the village intends to pay off the hags with this cold iron. And so the party ends up in a situation where they have to make a choice whether they're going to support empowering the Bloodgood Sisters with this very powerful cold iron, or if they are going to oppose the, they're going to lost my train of thought here for a second. If they're going to oppose oppose the hags, and they're going to try to convince the village to fight back with them. So, wow, we're off to a wonderful start today. Stumbling all over my words. But anyway, that's okay because we're going to be jumping back into the map that we were working on last time. So let me go ahead and get you swapped over to that screen where we are working on our map in Krita. So, uh, like we mentioned last time, you can do all of this in paper. You can work in paper and pencil, pen, do this on graph paper, any way that you like. I'm working on the digital platform, digital art platform Krita for this. Because it's really easy to use. It's also free and it doesn't require any fancy tools. I'm using a very, uh, you know, cheapo Wacom tablet and stylus for this. Very simple. But last time we were starting to work on the map for the Berg, both levels, both Fortress and the Mine level. Uh, and just kind of visually brainstorming, sketching out plans for the various rooms based off of what we've written so far. So today, what we're going to do is we are going to get into actually putting down some solid lines on this and working our way towards having a serviceable map that we can actually play the adventure with. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and put my screen down on this so you can watch me actually do the work and see it all unobstructed as opposed to just seeing my face of consternation while we do this. So here we go. All right, so we've got our sketch layer down here, where we've kind of, we've kind of branched out some rooms. We've thought through where things are going to go, given ourselves a few labels here, but nothing's really set in stone. This is certainly not what we want the final lines on our map to look like. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make a new layer. We're going to call this, I usually just call it walls because it's the wall layer that I'm working with. And then we're going to start putting some exterior lines in. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Um, I'm going to start with our straight lines for this, and then we'll get into some more organic lines later. For example, the face of the Berg and the route up. So let's go ahead and choose a different tool. We've been using this sketchy pencil tool, but I really like the, you can actually see it, the rough ink pen for this. I think it gives a nice little sense of texture. Um, it's going to default to this size 7 pixels. I tend to bump that up to like 13 or 14. Um, and then I'm going to come over and instead of taking this brush tool, I'm going to use our polyline tool because it's going to make a nice clean straight line for us very easily. You could also theoretically use the rectangle tool if you have a lot of rectangular shaped rooms. We've got a couple odd shapes here. And so this polyline tool makes it a lot easier. So we're just going to start by putting some lines down. And so that's as simple as click, click. I'll come down on our grid here, make that relatively straight. Over here, up, just kind of branching out the outlines of this space. And so I will generally work from the exterior in. And that's twofold here. You know what? Let's do something real quick. So I'm going to put a line there. We're going to hold shift and click, and that's going to end that. And haha, look at that. I didn't change the line color, so I need to undo that and get black in there, or or a dark gray or something along those lines. Maybe if I want it to be more of a more of a pencil color, or if I'm looking for something that's more India ink, I might put some brown in there, something like that. But we'll start with black. We're going to undo that, but I do kind of like this thickness here. Now, since I'm kind of doing the exterior wall, maybe I want it a little bit thicker. So let's experiment with that. Let's give ourselves like a 20 here, and then let's just kind of see about filling this in. The line thickness can actually play a pretty big part in your map making here, because you can suggest a lot with line thickness. And this is supposed to be a hand-drawn map, right? So the lines don't have to be perfect. We're just giving kind of the approximation of what we want. Maybe I'm getting a little more complicated than I need to be here. So let's shift click. Yeah, I like that thicker line a little bit better for the exterior walls. And then when we go do the interior walls, kind of like these corridors, or these sections, well, actually maybe not, because if we go around the edges here, that might get a little too thick for us. It's all experimentation. Let's dial it back down. Let's go back to our 15 and let's stick with that. That's a good middle ground. Yeah, so one of the values of digital art, doing this in digital art, is you really can kind of play around with this stuff without hitting a place where you just have to live with what you've chosen. Now, there's some value in having to live with your choices in art. It does force you to be a little more creative in some places, and that might really work out well for you. But if you're just starting out, or you don't have a real concrete idea yet of exactly what you want, doing digital art or using a digital platform for this kind of stuff can be really helpful. And there's a whole bunch of programs out there that are either free or inexpensive, like Incarnate, Dungeon Draft, Wonder Draft. There's I think there's one that's built into what is it, Roll20. I've never been a huge fan of Roll20, so I don't really use it. But so, I mean, you can use other programs that simplify some of this process. I have experimented with them. I like Dungeon Draft. I think Incarnate's got a lot of cool features in it too, especially for battle maps. But what I really ran into was that I'm limited by the assets in those programs. And maybe I'm just being a little, I don't know, maybe a little kind to myself and thinking that I, my imagination goes a little bit beyond what's available there. And even when it doesn't, I find that I spend a lot of time trying to make these really just absolutely gorgeous, detailed maps, no matter how much time my players are actually going to spend using that map. Battle maps in particular, I put so much detail into them, and then when battle lasts 10 minutes in game time, and it took me 2 hours to make that map. That's just not a productive use of my time. And so I started experimenting a while ago with this kind of system, and I started getting results that I really liked. Then again, I'm a big fan of like that Dyson logo style art for map making. I think it's I think it's nice and simple, and I think it gets the point across very easily. And it still has a level of beauty in that simplicity. Plus, if you haven't noticed from kind of my channel vibe, I really like the feel of notebooks and that style of the homebrew DM's notebook of the you've been kind of writing these adventures down and drawing them in your notebook, and they have a very organic, um, yeah, they just have a very organic, natural feel to them. Where's that one? Here we go. That I just think adds a lot of value to the experience because TTRPGs should be personal. The stories that you're telling here should mean something to you. Um, I think that's one of the most overlooked elements of storytelling in general, but of TTRPGs in particular, is that just because we're telling a story that has incredible fantasy elements in a world that we've never lived in, doesn't mean that it can't have emotional moments that really matter, that really speak to the things that matter in our lives. I mean, the most successful uh, art in general, but even the most successful fantasy, really doesn't live or die on its world building, although it may feel like that sometimes. It's really connects with us as readers and viewers and players because it speaks to universal things. It speaks to universal emotions and the kind of difficulties and trials we all go through. I mean, you look at things like, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and there's some very universal concepts there, things that we all have to deal with at some point in our lives. Sure, we don't all have to take the one ring to Mordor, nor do we all have to deal with wizards, carving the strange runes in our doors and dwarves interrupting our day. But you, but but questions of bravery and adventure and getting out and not being afraid to live life are things that I think we all struggle with from time to time. Um, no matter how adventurous you are, it can be scary to step outside your door not knowing what's going to happen, especially in this day and age where there's so much volatility. And I think fantasy in particular and TTRPGs as a whole give us a platform to really kind of have um, those conversations, to really work through those in a safe place um, for ourselves. Without even really having to acknowledge the fact that we're working through those things or that we're speaking to those things in our stories. And maybe that's not a particular thing that you struggle with, but there are things that are meaningful in your life if you're here to tell a story. Things you may not even realize that you want to talk about, but finding those elements in your games and really working them into your stories makes it a far more powerful experience. I talk a lot about adventures in this, and I talk a lot about exploration and going to um, far-flung places in my narratives uh, that in my adventures here, as you've probably noticed in what we're writing, um, because those are things that really mattered to me and still continue to matter to me. I learned to play D&D as a kid. I'm 7 or 8 years old, uh, and starting off on like first edition, and not that third edition wasn't out by then, but my dad taught me to play, and so he started us off on the first edition, and that really gave me the language to communicate something that I hadn't even realized was so important to me, that I wanted to have my own stories of adventure in life. I wanted to have my own experiences, and that D&D in a way very much inspired me to go out and do those things. And I won't say that I'm, slayed dragons or did anything terribly heroic. But, I moved to a foreign country at 17 after high school by myself. Um, when I was in my 20s, I went off and moved to West Africa as part of the Peace Corps and lived in a community without running water or electricity, taught middle school, um, had some incredible experiences that really changed who I was for the better. And that all came about from fantasy role playing games. Um, that put the idea in my head that those things were possible. And so the stories that you tell in your own games, they make a difference. Perhaps not on such a grand scale as that, but they really do make a difference to yourself and to the people who play your games. So finding those parts of you and working them in to every level of your adventure, from the stories themselves to the maps, and giving yourself the room and the tools to make and tell the stories that you want to make and tell is vitally important. Um, you don't need to do what's quote unquote popular, what's in vogue. You just need to tell what's meaningful to you. And so I fell into looking for tools like Krita here so that I could do that. And I think that they have served me well. I hope they will serve you well also. Okay, so still working on the outline here, as you can probably tell. Takes a little bit of time doing this, but I will tell you what, there is something really soothing about this in a world where, I spend a lot of time, you know, sort of burning up brain power, trying to think up stuff. Being able to just kind of connect the dots in this fashion is so soothing. When I do this on my own, just, you know, making this for my own adventures, my own ongoing campaigns with my family and friends, it it's a lot of fun to just toss on some chill background music or even some ASMR or something, just something very relaxing, and just let that kind of sit in my ears while I go through here and trace lines. So we're going to do that for the moment. And we can go in and clean stuff up later as we need to. All right. Let's get over here. We'll get the interior here. Yeah. So kind of while we're just, effectively chit-chatting while we work on this, um, I would love to hear from some of you all in the future. What adventures you're writing? What are you working on? What are you creating? What are you playing? What are the stories that really mean the most to you? I love hearing about other people's campaigns. I think there's just so much creativity and inspiration out there with all of the wildly different life experiences that so many of us have had. I really, really love hearing that from you guys. So please feel free to share in the comments or in the chat um, what you're working on, what you hope to work on, what you have worked on, what you've played, what was amazing about it, what wasn't. And the downside to getting that line wonky is that now I gotta redo that section. That's okay. So yeah, just when you watch this video, when you have a moment, I would love to hear from you. Um, to that end, I am still planning on doing that live build of the D&D Lego set that I got, the big one, the castle, the dragon, all that kind of stuff. And so there's still time to send me your own questions and comments and stuff like that to talk about in that live stream. I'm get that scheduled. I'll get the scheduled date up for that probably Monday or Tuesday of this week if you're watching this in real time. And then it'll be a couple weeks out before we actually run it. So a little bit of time to think about that and toss those in the comments. Even a couple live streams between now and then, so time to toss those in as you think of them if you're watching. So, yeah, all right, almost done with the outline here. And to move around on the screen here, by the way, I'm just holding that space bar down, and it lets me kind of do the hand tool and draw up here. So let's get that. Let's get a little bit more space here. None of these lines are perfect, and you know what? That's a-okay. So let's zoom out here and see if we kind of get the general exterior shape down. And it looks like, for the most part, we do. We might just go ahead and do this one too, just to make that a little bit more uniform on the inside. I usually kind of overlap these lines a little bit just so they feel more organic to one another. Boom. Nice and clean. And we got, a little bit of little nub right there. We can get rid of that just by hitting our eraser and coming in here on this level and just, ooh, that eraser's pretty big. Let's dial that down. Eraser tool. Oh, because I don't have the right tool up. That's why. Okay. Oh, shift. Let's get that size. Did I? Oh. Because I've got to hit the correct tool in the eraser. My goodness, Rob. My goodness. There we go. Let me just kind of polish that line up there. Cool. Zoom out. All right. So let us start putting in some walls and doors and the like. So, you might look at this and think you're going to go absolutely insane trying to get all the doors in this. So I actually try to create a stamp for that kind of thing, where I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to call this doors. And I'm going to make one door. I'm going to come over to the square tool here, the rectangle tool here, and I'm just going to draw in the door as I would want it to fit on the map here. We're just going to make it a little bit of an overlap. Nope. We're going to want to make that a smaller line there. So let's try 7. Let's kind of do that. Let's try that again. And something like that. Yeah, that fits a little bit better. That's a little closer to what I want. Cool. So I want all the doors that are, 1 square wide or whatever to be about that size. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit these little eye icons. They're going to turn off all of the other various layers here so that we just have that. And we're going to come over, we're going to hit the square selection tool, and we're going to select that area there. Then we're going to come down to our brushes and we're going to scroll down to a brush preset. Let's get rid of the grid there and move that up a little bit. Scroll down to a brush preset that has the pixel engine. So something like this star or stamp sparkles brush or whatever is really good. We come up here to our edit brush settings, and you see it's got the pixel engine up here, so we know we got the right thing. What we're going to do is make sure we're clicked on this predefined section. I'm going to turn off the size there and the mirror. Just go back to brush tip. And then we're going to hit the plus stamp, and that's going to create a brush tip from the current image selection. All right, so it gives me this. Now, I want to get rid of this create mask from color because I want this to just be a tool tip like any of the other brushes I've got. So we're going to call this one Berg Doors. We call it whatever we want. But we'll do 50 pixels, so because we'll probably want to make double doors at some point, and so that gives us a distinguishing characteristic there. Then we're going to hit save, and so now we have a brush that we can use, anytime we want in here. But if we want to save this, right, this is just kind of a temporary brush at the moment. So if we want to be able to use this at any point in the future, like for example, we're going to do a little bit of work on this project now, we're going to come back to it later. We're going to want to save a new brush preset. So first thing we're going to do is give ourselves a little click here on the scratch pad to give ourselves kind of a template or an icon, and then we're going to hit that new brush, save new brush preset here. We're going to give it a name. So again, we're going to call it Berg Doors 50 pixels because it's about the size of a square, 50 pixel square. We're going to hit load scratchpad thumbnail just to kind of give that an image, and we could probably dial that down. In fact, let's do that. I don't like that. Let's go ahead and get this one down closer to the actual size it's going to be. So, okay, there we go. That's better. I'll put a couple of them on here just to fill up the spot. Why not? Save new brush preset. Same deal. Okay, so Berg Doors 50 pixels. Load scratchpad thumbnail and save. Cool. So now we have a brush preset, and that's what we're in here. So we can come back now and open up all of the things that we've put in. Want to make sure that we deselect that layer because otherwise we won't be able to add anything. Come back to the brush tool. We've got our brushes here, and now we can literally just put that on and create a door there. Now we can continue like that. If we like that fitting, if we don't like that fitting, we could make a different brush preset, maybe one that has some of the wall built into it. But we can go in and fill all of this kind of stuff out as we go with our brush preset. We can go ahead and do some of that. So what I will do now that I have that is in a number of places I'm going to go through and kind of just draw in these walls, because obviously like a brush like this isn't going to fill this whole section here. We'll have to rotate the map anyway for that, but same kind of deal for like any of these segments over here where it's not necessarily going to fit the full section. We're going to want to have some connection walls, and then we've got some divider walls and that kind of stuff. But I've got the tooltip here now that I can use as needed. So let's go back to the one we were using before. We've got that size 7 here, which I like, I think, for the interior walls. I think they make a little bit of a difference. And let's go ahead and hit our line tool for that. Working our way in. So for one, we know that we're going to have we're going to have an interior wall there. One here as well. Cool. And then we'll have some gatehouse doors, and we'll build those in later. But we're going to have an interior wall here. With the line tool, you're clicking and dragging, just FYI. Let's see what I put in. We put in a little antechamber here, didn't we? A little 5-foot antechamber. So let's put that there. Same deal there. We may decide we don't want that antechamber. Who knows? But we'll play with that later. So let's put that there. I don't like how that connects, so let's drop that just a little bit lower. And you'll notice that our lines aren't perfectly square here, and that's okay. I mean, we love to think that construction, like actual real building construction, is perfect on making everything square, but it's not. So um, it adds a little character to have things that are a little bit off. Although you can certainly go in and erase and redo if there's something that just really is bothering you. Like if we decide this angle is just too odd for us, we can get rid of it. So let's get that little section there. Get that little section here. So let's draw that in. And again, we're just kind of going to take some time and fill this in. And yeah, and just, oh, we don't want that because we're going to have a door that goes there. We'll see how we want to, but what we don't want to do is put all these lines on the freaking door layer. My goodness. What have we done, Rob? What have we done? All right. So let's go back to our wall layer and redo this. All right. So let's, don't necessarily have to start with any particular rhyme or reason here. So we're just going to kind of do this in the order we see fit. Great. So, okay. You know, it sounds like this that I understand why Bob Ross was so freaking relaxed. There is something just so cathartic about just dropping lines on art like this without really worrying about the outcome too terribly. So one of the reasons that I like to get into the map about halfway through the development process for a particular area is that I like to start with an idea of what we're going to do and what we're going to have going on. But making the maps sometimes sparks other ideas for other interactions, complications, and things that our characters might run into during the actual gameplay. And that can be a lot of fun. That can be a source of a lot of really useful info. We're gonna just use the square tool for that. It can spark ideas that you didn't have previously just by looking at how things in the map kind of line up next to each other and interact. And so it's a really useful thing to do before you get into some of the meat of some of the smaller rooms. I mean, certainly knowing the key points, the things that really need to happen narratively in the adventure, will influence the map's construction. And they should. They absolutely should. But for some of the smaller places that are just a little more organic, it can be a very fun thing to just wait and fit those in as the map comes into being. So, okay. What do we have over here? Yeah, so we'll put some doors in there in a little bit. Oh, we had a segment here. That's right. Cool. Now, of course, doodling out your shapes beforehand means that you should probably know what the heck you were doodling, what the purpose of that was when you do this. But sometimes you just forget, and that's okay. All right. Again, this is all supposed to be part of the fun. If it stops being fun, stop doing it. I mean, what's the value in doing this kind of thing if you don't enjoy it? Shooting for perfection usually makes something that's far worse than the thing that you would have made if you weren't trying to be perfect. So, at least in my experience it does. So let's get that in there. And I really didn't intend for this live stream to be kind of a RJ waxes philosophical while he, doodles in line art. But you know what? Sometimes that's fun. And one of the things that I really value about this live stream is that it kind of just gives me a less structured place to kind of talk with you all. The nature of YouTube videos mandates that they have just a little bit of they have some structure to them. They function in an orderly progression of thought. There's almost an essay-like quality to them sometimes. But just having a space where I can just kind of play around with you all, I think, inspires some creativity. Creativity really, just as a general thing, it happens best and happens most when we're at play, because you're not evaluating what you're doing. You're not trying to achieve an objective or hit a goal. You're giving yourself the room to try things without any sort of criticism or critical thought applied. I should say, or critical feedback applied to what you're doing, and so that gives you the freedom to experiment in a way that you might not, and you probably don't in other settings where productivity is more highly prized. Because productivity requires a lot more logical and rational thought. How do we go about doing things? And so you need a blend of both of those when you're working on producing any kind of piece of art, including things like dungeons. Anyway, welcome to my TED Talk. That's how I feel about this. And so you guys giving me this space to play is really nice. So, still the wrong brush. All right, so we got that there. And so, this kind of thing here where I'm kind of putting down the door over the line. The nice thing about having them two separate layers is I can come back through, and just, erase that. Wrong layer. It's a, Rob, it's a better demonstration if you do it right. Got a little close there, but we can just come back through and just kind of erase the section of door like that. And so we don't erase the door. We could scribble over it because it's on a different layer, but we get rid of the wall beneath. And if we really wanted to, for example, put a white, maybe a white fill inside the door here, so it really popped from the rest, we could do that. Easy enough. We just use the paint tool, pick a color, and hit it. In this case, though, I don't know that I necessarily want to do that. So I'm going to hold off. But what I am going to do is kind of go around here and fit these doors in as I see fit. Cool. So just kind of get everything dry fitted together here. And not worry too much about how it looks yet. Because you may be looking at this and you may be going, well, geez, this still looks like kind of a mess. And I would really like to produce something that looks a little more polished for my players. That's a noble goal. And I do not disagree with you at all in that capacity. Certainly, I experience the same wants as you. But it's not going to look like a mess at the end. We're going to get through an ugly phase in this art process, because every artwork has an ugly phase. And then we'll be able to show a more polished piece to our players. And it will come together faster than you might imagine. Although, certainly not today. This is going to take us a little more time. And unfortunately, doing your own custom maps it just takes time. It really does. It really does. So, what I'm debating now at the moment is I got a lot of vertical doors here. And so instead of kind of flip-flopping my piece, maybe I just want to make another vertical door stamp so I don't have to keep jumping back and forth between directions. So, you know what? Let us do that. Let's do that. So, we got our size, we got this, our door layer, and we're just gonna make another door. Is that's kind of a little wider gap. Maybe I want to do it over here so we've got something that's a little more reminiscent of where I want to be. So yeah, that's good size. That's good. So let's make another door, another stamp. Background. Cool. And same steps as before. Grab that bad boy there. We can go back to the same brush because we're creating a new one, so it doesn't affect the original one. And we can say, make another stamp. And we're going to say same thing, only we're going to call it vertical. Oh, wow. Can I not spell vertical today? Vertical? We're going to, yeah. Whatever. It's just for me. All right, so we're going to hit that, and we're going to clear our scratch pad by hitting this little button right there, and we're just going to, put a door, put a door, put a door. Cool. New save. We're going to say Berg Doors 58px vert. Load scratch pad from thumb, save, and voila, here we are. So let's get everything back in place. And zoom out a little bit. Go ahead and deselect and get back into placing our doors. We're going to get that back down to 50 somewhere around that. Cool. And we're just going to pop those in. And the nice thing about making this a brush is if we want to scale it down a little bit, maybe that one needs to be a little narrower based on our line work here. We can just do that. And it's not an enormous deal. Although sometimes it is really kind of nice to have those looking kind of uniform. And so I think that's what we'll do. We'll just pop that in there, and then we'll come in on our wall layer and just carve that out a touch. That's a little far. We'll just give ourselves just so we can kind of see the feel of that. And voila. Okay. Now back to doors. Doors, doors, doors. Okay. And working through all of this kind of stuff. Like I said, frequently I just kind of go through and hit all the areas that I want to hit, and I'll go back and edit stuff as needed. And that's, maybe there's a better workflow for artists, but that's kind of my workflow for writing is don't spend a lot of time editing yourself. When you write, focus more on just getting a draft down, getting thoughts down on paper, then go back through and clean things up. Because if you try to edit while you write, one, you invariably slow yourself down, and then two, you also talk yourself out of things that end up being really good ideas because they don't feel like good ideas in the moment, because every piece of art, including writing, has that ugly phase. So that is my yeah, weren't these going to be secret doors? Because that was our library. Yeah, those were. All right. That's right, because this is our treasury. That's what we were going to put there. So let's get into our regular brush. Let's put let's actually real quick. Let's get that. Let's get that gone. We don't need that door there. Let's use our. Let's go back to 15 for this because we want this to appear as though it is part of the wall when we are doing this for the mapping. And then we can, yeah, we can just put a secret door on there later if we need to. So, oh crap, did that again on the wrong layer. I will invariably do that many times throughout this process because I am human. All right, cool. Solved. All right, so let's work our way back up here. We definitely want some like side doors inside the gatehouse. Oh, back to brush tool. Come on. You can do it, brush tool. There we go. Okay. We get that. We were going to double doors in some places here. I think this is one we were going to double doors on. So we'll come back to that. And put that here. That there. That. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah. So stamp and move, stamp and move. So, oop, don't need that second stamp. Just the first. Thank you. Move in here a little bit. Yeah. So you'll develop a rhythm as you do this, and it'll get faster and cleaner. And it's like a skill like anything else. The more you practice it, the more the easier it's going to become. And you'll learn tips and tricks that really work for you. You know, as I mentioned in the first, I guess in the last part that we did this on, um, I I'm not a professional artist by any stretch of the imagination. And there are some phenomenal professional artists on YouTube that can give you some just really top-notch advice on how to work in your digital, art platform or traditional art platform of your choice. Um, I make no claim to be one of them. So take what I'm giving you here as sort of a quickie primer, as a place from which to learn and deviate, and go forth and do your own thing. Make it all your own, as you should with everything we do on this channel. Because even though I write adventures a particular way, that certainly doesn't mean that that's how you have to write adventures. But what it does mean is that I need to actually put the freaking walls in the correct places on this map. Because we didn't do any of the cell walls here. Oop, gotta get back down to our original size. And voila. Cool, cool, cool. All right. So, fun. Yeah, so all of these little rooms can be a little fiddly when you're writing them in adventures, because you want places that feel distinct enough that the players are encouraged to explore each of them. But at the same time, you don't necessarily need to write something, crazy for each. We'll talk about this more when I actually handle writing out this particular space in the adventure, but I frequently will write a general kind of description of little rooms like this, little repetitive spaces like these, and then I will put in um, like a table or a list of variances in there. Oops, so that I've got, you know, so that they're all pretty much the same. They're all pretty easy to use, to play and to operate, but they're not all exactly identical. Um, Rewarding players who actually take the time to really, dig in and look for stuff. Um, cool. You know, and that being said, sometimes you also don't want to bog down your game by being like, here, look through 32 different rooms. Go ahead, everybody. Let's get those perception checks going. So, you may use a table like that when you actually run the game and shift stuff around. So if the players, search, that room and that room and, that room, well, if there's three things for them to find, maybe they do find them in those rooms. Or maybe they find two of the three things that are there, encouraging them to look in other rooms. It really just depends on what's going on in your session. Sometimes players get really involved in searching everything. Sometimes, like, they're just low on energy and they're looking for something a little lighter. Making modifications on the fly is a useful skill, and it should always be remembered that, oh, that's right, I keep wanting to make that just a regular door, but it's a secret door. We need to fix that. Yeah, but making modifications on the fly from the actual written adventure is something that is a really valuable tool for any DM, because there is a big difference between writing an adventure and running an adventure, just functionally. So how are we looking over here? Not bad, not bad. We've still got some double doors we want to get in there. And then we've got some pillars, which we can, really kind of approximate pretty easily by hitting the circle tool and going to our regular pen tool and just drawing those bad boys out to where we want them. Oh, I put all those doors on the freaking wall. I'll fix that later. I'm not going to make you sit here with me while I do that. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I won't fix it. Maybe I'll just learn to live with it because I made my own bed. Now, when you're making these pillars here, you can again use that same kind of stamp tool if we want to do that. And if we were, doing a dwarven hull that had a bajillion of these things, I probably would. But you can also copy and paste these. You can use your selection tool to highlight on this layer and copy and paste these things. You can just draw them out too, like I'm doing here. There's nothing wrong with that. Kind of in the mode, so that's what I'm doing. But it really just depends on my mood. Yeah, we kind of get those drawn in, and we'll get our double doors build out here at this point, probably next time. Before we move on to the mine level of the Berg, which we still have plenty to do here. Something I will do right now, just because I am very much feeling it, is just get the exterior sections here, which are going to be a little more hand-drawn. So let's get back up to our 15 for our wall here, and we're just going to, we're going to use our brush tool. We're just going to come over here, and we're going to give ourselves, a little bit of variation. Not afraid to put some wobbles in that line because it's a more organic structure, right? This is our wall of ice, and while it may be relatively straight, if you ever really look at ice, not that maybe you've ever had any reason to evaluate the surface of a cube of ice. I mean, it's smooth, but it's not flawless, right? It's not a hand carved surface. So we don't need it to be that. Now we put kind of a thick line there as our layer. Um, I think this is actually a place where maybe we want to go just a little bit thicker. Um, and oh, do I have I put an extra door there? My goodness. All right, we'll get rid of that next time. Editing process. All right. But I just want to give kind of a little bit of a thicker line just to delineate the difference in height, distance. So when you're trying to kind of give this perception of things being closer to the eye than others, thicker lines read as closer to the eye, thinner lines read as farther away. At least that's my basic understanding. So let's, you know, we'll give, since this is a descending path, we're not going to vary up the line weight on the path itself, but we want it to be a little bit thinner than our walls here, noticeably so. So let's make those kind of a 7, and we can give that a little bit of rocky variation, make that kind of a little more organic in its shape. And I'm really just kind of scribbling here. A lot of the line technique stuff that I've learned here, I won't claim to have come up with it on my own. Very much learned this by watching videos from 2 Minute Tabletop. So 100% recommend checking out Ross at 2 Minute Tabletop on YouTube. Just an absolutely stellar channel. But that is going to bring us pretty close to our end here. So let's go back to our obligatory talking head where you see my smiling face one more time. So welcome, I should say, thank you for spending about an hour with me on our highly chaotic episode today that then became half Bob Ross. Anyway, this has been a lot of fun for me. I really appreciate you spending this time with me. If you've enjoyed this video or my channel, please like and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon so you never miss a video. Hit the notify me button when these live streams come out. All that kind of stuff doesn't cost you anything and helps this channel grow and helps me do this kind of thing more often. If you like my other content, you want to kind of see proofs that these adventures actually do turn into something that you can play and play well, you should check out my published adventures. You can find all of those on my website. That's rjkerr.com. So like my name in the YouTube channel here, .com. You can also find it in my links there. And in the meantime, I look forward to seeing you all next time. So if you're watching this in real time, that's going to be Saturday, the 29th of June. So same bat time, same bat channel. Anyway, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you then.